"We are losing the war," the galaxy cried, not in one voice, but in a million broken transmissions echoing through space. Civilizations that had stood for 10,000 cycles were burning, their skis torn open by an enemy that learned faster than it feared. The Car Dominion had come without warning, biomechanical fleets, adapting to every weapon used against them. Plasma failed, gravity weapons stalled, quantum firewalls collapsed. Every alliance fell apart the same way: brave resistance, sudden hope, then silence. In the final council of the Unified Galactic Assembly, fear was no longer hidden behind ceremony. Delegates spoke openly of extinction, of cultural archives being buried on dead moons. Only one seat remained mostly silent: the human delegation. Humans were newcomers, barely 2 centuries beyond their home system. They had no ancient empire, no legendary armadas, no galaxy-spanning trade routes. What they had instead was a reputation for being strange, stubborn, and terrifyingly creative under pressure. When the High Speaker finally turned to the human envoy, the chamber quieted. "Earth," the speaker said, voice trembling, "can you help us?" The human representative did not stand dramatically, did not make speeches about honor or destiny. She simply nodded once, touched the comm at her wrist, and said, "Yes, we will send a ship." Laughter broke out, hysterical and sharp. "A ship," someone repeated. "Against fleets that blot out stars." The human envoy raised one finger. "One warship," she corrected. Then she added, calmly, "Please clear a corridor through your space. It will arrive shortly." Sensors across Allied space went wild as the human vessel entered real space. It was not massive, not elegant, not terrifying in the traditional sense. It looked almost plain: angular hull, no glowing insignia, no visible weapon ports. Analysts were confused. No carrier bays, no fighter screens, no escort fleet. Just one ship, cruising forward like it had nowhere else to be. The designation appeared on every tactical display: HMS Perseverance. The name meant little to most species, but to humans it carried weight. It was a word carved into their history by disasters survived and lessons learned. The Car Dominion noticed the ship almost immediately. They diverted a strike fleet, confident and efficient. Thousands of vessels moving as one organism, weapons charging in unison. Observers prepared to record the destruction of humanity's final gesture. Some turned away, unwilling to watch another hopeful light go out. The Perseverance did not slow. It did not broadcast threats or demands. It simply adjusted its trajectory and powered up systems no one else could identify. When the car fired, space itself seemed to hesitate. Their weapons did not miss. They simply ceased to matter. The first volley struck the Perseverance, and nothing happened. No shields flared, no armor cracked, no evasive maneuvers triggered. The shots were absorbed, not deflected, not resisted, but studied. Inside the ship, human systems were learning. Every impact fed algorithms designed not just to defend, but to understand. Then the Perseverance fired back. Not with energy or mass, but with causality. Car ships began to fail in impossible ways. Reactors forgot how to sustain fusion. Navigation systems believed they were already destroyed. Weapons powered down because their future calculations ended in zero probability. Entire squadrons went dark without a single explosion. They simply stopped functioning, as if the universe had lost interest in them. The human ship moved through the enemy formation like a thought passing through a mind. Where it went, the car ceased to exist as a threat. Galactic observers were silent now, recording everything, afraid to blink. This was not superior firepower. This was a different philosophy of war. Humans did not overpower problems. They redefined them. The Car Dominion attempted to adapt, as they always had. They rerouted intelligence cores, changed attack patterns, rewrote their own biology. It did not help. The Perseverance adapted faster, not because it was alive, but because it was human-made, built by a species that evolved on a world that tried to kill them every day. When the Car Central Command entity finally revealed itself, a moon-sized intelligence directing the war, the Perseverance stopped. For the first time, it sent a message. "This is humanity," the transmission said. "You are no longer at war, you are being corrected." What followed was not destruction. It was containment. The Car Command intelligence was isolated, rewritten, stripped of its ability to propagate aggression. Across the galaxy, Car ships powered down. Not defeated, not destroyed, but ended. The war that had consumed centuries was over in hours. Because humans did not fight to win battles. They fought to end wars. The Perseverance did not stay for celebrations. It did not accept medals or treaties. It turned and departed the same way it had arrived, quietly. The human envoy returned to the assembly weeks later. The chamber was different now. Fear had been replaced with something else. Respect and caution. The High Speaker asked the question everyone feared. "If humanity could do this with one ship," he said, "what could you do with a fleet?" The envoy smiled just a little. "We do not send fleets unless we have to," she replied. "One ship is usually enough." From that day forward, humanity's place in the galaxy was secured. Not as conquerors, not as saviors, but as the species you called when there were no good options left. Because when the galaxy cried, "We are losing the war," humans answered, "Then it ends now." The galaxy expected relief after the war ended, but what arrived instead was silence. Not the peaceful kind, but the kind that follows a thunderclap so loud it reshapes memory. Trade routes reopened slowly, cautiously, as if the stars themselves were unsure they were allowed to shine again. Entire civilizations gathered historians, philosophers, and tacticians to answer one question. What exactly had humanity done? Sensor logs were reviewed frame by frame. Mathematical models were rerun until their processors overheated. Nothing fit. The Perseverance had not behaved like a weapon. It behaved like a conclusion. Among the survivors were former frontline species, races whose worlds had been half consumed by the Car Dominion. They had watched fleets die, had sent children into evacuation arcs knowing the ships might never arrive. Now they stared at empty space where the enemy once ruled. And they were afraid. Because the war had not ended naturally. It had been stopped. On the human homeworld, celebrations were muted. There were no global parades, no monuments raised overnight. The Perseverance returned to its berth and powered down like any other ship. Engineers walked its halls with clipboards and tired eyes. Pilots debriefed, ate quietly, and went home. For humans, this was not myth. It was procedure. Yet beyond Earth, the legends were already forming. Children of other species whispered that humans could erase wars by thinking hard enough. Religious sects declared humanity a corrective force of the universe. Some even began praying towards Sol. That made human leadership deeply uncomfortable. Within weeks, a second galactic assembly was convened. This one was not held in desperation. It was held in fear of misunderstanding. The human delegation arrived again, fewer representatives this time. No military insignia, no visible guards. Just people. The High Speaker addressed them carefully. "Humanity," he said, "the galaxy is grateful but also uncertain. You ended a war none of us could survive, and you did it with a single ship. We need to understand. The laid human delegate nodded. That is reasonable, she said. But you must accept something first. She paused, letting translators catch up. We did not save the galaxy. We solved a problem. That sentence disturbed more listeners than any threat could have. The Car Dominion had not been erased completely. Human systems had ensured that. What remained were inert shells, dormant nodes, frozen intelligences incapable of expansion or aggression. They were contained, catalogued, and monitored, not destroyed. When asked why, the answer unsettled everyone further. Destruction teaches nothing, the human scientists explained. Persistence teaches everything. The Perseverance's true weapon was not causality manipulation or adaptive computation. Those were tools. The real weapon was restraint. Human war doctrine, once studied more closely, revealed a pattern. They escalated only as much as necessary. But when escalation occurred, it skipped steps others considered sacred. Where other species built larger guns, humans asked different questions. Why does the enemy exist? What assumption are they making? What happens if that assumption is wrong? The Car Dominion assumed the universe was something to be optimized through domination. Humans disagreed. Not philosophically, but structurally. They altered the rules the car depended on. And once those rules failed, the Dominion collapsed under its own logic. This revelation sent shockwaves through galactic military theory. Entire academies rewrote their curricula. New branches of study emerged. Human strategic minimalism, existential warfare theory, causal ethics in conflict resolution. None of it made humans particularly proud. The most unsettling discovery came months later. A junior archivist from a peripheral system noticed a discrepancy. The Perseverance's internal logs showed no improvisation during the battle. Everything had been planned, simulated, validated. The ship had not been humanity's last hope. It had been humanity's first step. When this was brought before the assembly, the chamber fell into stunned quiet. You mean, the High Speaker said slowly, you were confident one ship would be enough. The human delegate hesitated. Confident is the wrong word, she replied. We were certain. Fear rippled through the chamber. Not panic, but understanding. If one ship was certainty, what was the rest of humanity capable of? The delegate seemed to sense the shift. She raised her hands slightly, a human gesture of calm. This is why we do not intervene lightly, she said. Power changes how people listen. She looked directly at the speaker. We do not want to rule the galaxy. We do not want to police it. But we will not allow extinction events when we have the means to stop them. That was the condition. Not an alliance. Not a treaty. A boundary. As cycles passed, the galaxy adjusted. Conflicts still happened. Borders still shifted. But escalations slowed everywhere. When wars threatened to spiral, one phrase began appearing in diplomatic channels. Do not make this a human problem. It was not a threat. It was a reminder. Pirate coalitions disbanded without explanation. Aggressive empires suddenly invested in diplomacy. Weapons research turned toward defense and deterrence. Humanity had not enforced peace. It had redefined consequences. The Perseverance itself became a symbol, not of terror, but of finality. Artists painted it as a quiet shadow between stars. Poets described it as the pause between heartbeats. Soldiers dreamed of it watching silently from beyond sensor range. Yet the ship never reappeared. It remained docked, upgraded slowly, methodically. Its crew rotated, trained, rested. Always ready. Never eager. Years later, a signal arrived from beyond known space. A weak transmission, fragmented and old. It spoke of a force older than the car. A civilization that consumed realities, not worlds. The message reached many powers simultaneously. Panic spread fast. Emergency councils were called. Old alliances reformed overnight. And then the question emerged, quietly at first. Should we call the humans? The debate was intense. Some argued that reliance bred weakness. Others remembered burning skis. Silence followed. On Earth, the signal was received, analyzed, and understood within hours. Human leadership convened, not to ask if they should act, but how little action would be required. The Perseverance's systems came online. Not urgently, not dramatically, just thoroughly, when asked by the Assembly whether humanity would intervene again. The response was brief. We are reviewing the problem. That was all. Across the galaxy, worlds waited. Not for salvation, but for correction, because they had learned the truth too late to forget it. Humans did not arrive with armies. They arrived with endings. And when the universe itself cried out, "We are losing control," humanity listened and prepared a single ship.